The transportation sector, including cargo operators, e-hailing drivers, food delivery workers, will be vaccinated starting July. Vaccine Minister Kari Jamaluddin said the Transport Ministry will launch a COVID-19 vaccination program for workers in the transportation sector tomorrow. Vaccination will start with the port and cargo operators, followed by e-hailing drivers and food delivery workers in July. He said that the government received a lot of applications for different sectors to be considered frontliners, but the constraint was supply of vaccines. Khairi was speaking at the National Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Malaysia's virtual 45th Annual General Meeting today. Meanwhile, Khairi said he projects 40% of Malaysia's population will be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 by the end of August, in line with the National Recovery Plan. Complete vaccination coverage of 60%, he added, is expected by the end of September, slightly earlier than the end of October, scheduled for Malaysia to move to the last phase in November under the government's exit strategy. So far, approximately 14.5% of the population has received at least one COVID-19 vaccine dose. According to the Special Committee on COVID-19 Vaccine Supply, this includes 5.5% of the population who have also received their second dose and therefore considered fully vaccinated. The highest vaccination rate was seen in Kuala Lumpur at 46.5% with at least one dose, followed by Putrajaya at 32.3% and Labuan 29.5%. The lowest vaccination rate was seen in Sabah at 9%, Kedah 10.1% and Terengganu 10.3%. As of yesterday, 15.6 million people or 48% of the population have registered for vaccination. UMNO President Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi has rubbished claims that a significant portion of Barisan Nasional MPs have lost confidence in his leadership. Speaking to Utusan Malaysia, Zahid said the claims were absurd, even likening it to a cartoon tale. However, could the problems surfacing here are symptoms of a much deeper problem within the party? Political analyst Associate Professor Dr. Hamidin Hamid lays it out.
Nazri Aziz's statement obviously give a strong weight to the situations in UMNO where Zahid Hamidi is being challenged as president. But I don't think his time is up for Zahid. Obviously, Zahid will give a strong resistance towards whatever movement that want to replace him as a president. However, I think the momentum to replace Zahid is becoming stronger and stronger by day in UMNO, among the UMNO leadership.
With that in mind, how do political observers look at the ultimatum issued by Zahid to the Perikatan Nasional Government earlier this week?
I don't think PN, especially Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, take Zahid ultimatum seriously. If you notice, even his own vice president who attended the meeting contradict what Zahid said about about the parliament. So in that case, in my point of view, nobody will take that seriously unless and until there is some serious action taken by UMNO towards the matter. UMNO choice is very much limited now. Other than pulling out from the government, I don't think many things that can UMNO do as part of the PN government. However, UMNO, I think, will definitely take seriously what's the impact of that, especially what's UMNO being perceived by the people on the ground, looking at the political situation at this particular time, especially during the COVID period.
Astro and Netflix today announced a partnership that will bring the popular streaming service to Astro's platform. The strategic agreement hopes to provide an exceptional entertainment experience for Astro customers. Astro customers will soon be able to enjoy seamless access to Netflix on their connected Ultra boxes first at launch and on connected Ulti boxes in the coming months. With this partnership, Astro and Netflix customers can enjoy greater convenience by having Netflix with their Astro subscription, providing easy access for payment in a single bill at the best value. Astro Group Chief Executive Officer Henry Tan said the collaboration with Netflix further strengthened Astro's position as the #1 entertainment destination for Malaysians, offering the best streaming services alongside Astro's best-loved originals, vernacular signatures, live sports and local blockbuster movies. Asian consumers are expected to account for half of the world's growth in consumption, amounting to $10 trillion by 2030. That is according to McKinsey's research on shifting Asian consumer patterns. What emerging trends can we look out for in the region for the next decade? We speak to Rohit Razan, Senior Partner of McKinsey & Company.
That we are seeing a lot of different changing consumer trends and preferences, and emergence of new segments, right? So if I could touch upon a few interesting ones. On the one side, we are seeing much more number of single households, right? They're already about 1/3 in advanced Asia, which is countries like Japan and Korea, but they're pretty sizable in China and are growing in all the other markets. And this will lead to what we call the emergence of a lonely economy, which comes with its own opportunities and challenges. On the other side, what we also see that while the demographic is pretty young across most markets in Asia, there is a growing proportion of seniors, which we define as more than 60-year-olds, especially in North Asia, in the advanced Asian countries, and in Singapore and Australia. And these seniors will drive pretty much almost 1/3 of this consumption growth over the next 10 years. So that is an interesting kind of trend which we are seeing. The third one that we're seeing is also the emergence of the digital natives. These are the Gen Z and the millennials who will now account for almost 1/3 of the population across Asia and drive about 1/3 of the consumption as well. And they come with their own unique set of behaviors, right? They're completely digitally connected. 1/3 of them spend more than about 6 hours on their mobile phones. And they are seeking much more experiences and are willing to take loans and financial assistance to drive their consumption. And then at the other end, the final one that I would touch upon is the growing women economic empowerment, which again is very interesting, is a trend which has continued to grow, will continue in the next decade, and could potentially add up to another 20% upside on the consumption growth in Asia.
We'll take a short break. Stay with us.
Kabar baik untuk semua rakyat B40 dengan Yes Prihatin.
Makin lebih sukar untuk COVID menjangkit kita.
Untuk tempoh 2 minggu ini, duduk di rumah. Kalau kita boleh laksanakan KKP, Kendiri dan keluarga,
saya kira insyaAllah kita boleh berjaya. Akhirnya kita menang.
Perang COVID-19 masih belum berakhir. Dalam kita berusaha memutuskan rantaian wabak ini, kita jangan terpedaya dengan virus maklumat palsu.
Welcome back. On to the international front. Singapore will accelerate its national COVID-19 vaccination program as it has been able to bring forward the delivery of vaccine supplies. Minister for Health Ong Ye Kung said from Saturday onwards, health authorities will be able to administer up to 80,000 doses daily, a 70% increase from the 47,000 daily doses currently. More than 3 million people, or about 53% of the population, have received their first dose. Of these, 2 million, or 36% of the population, have received their second dose and are fully vaccinated. Singapore has been taking steps to prepare for COVID-19 becoming an endemic. A multi-ministry task force on coronavirus said Singapore will outline a roadmap for the country to transition to a new normal. It said with enough people vaccinated, COVID-19 will be managed like other endemic diseases such as the common flu and hand, foot and mouth disease in Singapore. Indonesia aims to vaccinate 7.5 million people in Jakarta by the end of August. President Joko Widodo admits the target is quite ambitious, but said it had to be done in order to achieve herd immunity in the capital, which has been the epicenter of the COVID-19 pandemic. With more than 2 million COVID-19 cases, Indonesia has been grappling with a surge of infections following last month's Aidilfitri holidays. As of June 21st, at least 3.5 million Jakarta residents have received their first jab, while about 1.8 million received their second. Jakarta is home to about 10.5 million people. The Hong Kong government will ban passenger flights from Indonesia starting Friday. Authorities said flights would be suspended after the number of imported COVID-19 cases from Indonesia crossed thresholds set by government. Hong Kong has already banned travellers from India, Nepal, Pakistan and the Philippines, using a flight suspension rule triggered when there are 5 or more passengers who test positive on arrival, or 10 or more passengers found to have any strain of the virus while in quarantine. An influential cleric was sentenced to another 4 years in prison in Indonesia for concealing information about his COVID-19 test result. The East Jakarta District Court ruled that Rizik Shihab had lied about his test result, which made contact tracing more difficult. Authorities blocked streets leading to the court and had to fire tear gas as thousands of Shihab's supporters tried to stage a rally to demand his release. Shihab has been facing a series of criminal trials since returning from exile in Saudi Arabia last November. In May, the same court sentenced him to 8 months in prison for violating health protocols by holding a religious gathering and the wedding of his daughter, both attended by thousands of supporters during the COVID outbreak. Shihab has been detained since December 13th. The court ordered the time he has already served to be deducted from his sentence. Hundreds of protesters rallied in Bangkok today to call for the government's resignation, defying warnings from authorities about soaring COVID-19 infections in the country. The marches came on the 89th anniversary of the Siamese Revolution, the uprising that transformed Thailand from an absolute monarchy to a constitutional monarchy. Protesters marched towards Parliament House demanding an end to Prayut Chan-o-cha's military government and the kingdom's harsh royal defamation laws. Anti-government protests resumed in Bangkok after a long break, due partly to a surge in COVID-19 cases, with daily case toll hovering around the 3,000 mark. Former Philippine President Benigno Aquino died today after being hospitalized in Manila due to renal failure. The 61-year-old was president of the Philippines from 2010 to 2016. Aquino was the only son of the two pro-democracy icons in the Philippines, the late Senator Benigno Aquino Jr., who was assassinated in 1983, and former President Corazon Aquino, who helped topple dictator Ferdinand Marcos. During his presidency, Aquino famously took China to court over a long-running dispute involving the South China Sea, parts of which the Philippines claims as the West Philippine Sea. Aquino had been largely silent and out of the public eye after his presidency ended. Thousands across Hong Kong rushed to snap up the final edition of the pro-democracy newspaper, Apple Daily, which closed its doors after 26 years. The publication decided to shut down after its reports were accused of breaching a national security law, leading to a freeze on company assets. Newsstands across the city saw long queues with people braving heavy rain, hoping to pick up the very last edition of the paper, where 1 million copies were being printed. The closure of Apple Daily is seen as a blow to press freedom under the pressure of Beijing. The paper's offices were raided by police last week over allegations that several reports had breached a new national security law, which makes undermining the government a criminal offence. Several senior staff were arrested, while the paper's founder, Jimmy Lai, is already in detention, facing charges under the security law. The final edition was a tribute to its readers with the headline, "Hong Kongers bid a painful farewell in the rain." Penang's Transport Master Plan and South Reclamation Project are part of the state's development agenda, but it comes with a price not everyone is willing to pay. Tonight on Consider This, we ask our guests about the trade-offs involved. That is all we have for you on AWANI tonight. Get the latest news update on COVID-19 and COVID-19 vaccines from astroawani.com and Astro Awani app. I'm Farhana Sheikh. We'll see you again.